Thank you very much, Kalaris. And what a match it is. Two of the monsters of WCS. Some of the most consistent players over the last couple of years. And a Zerg versus Terran match, nonetheless. I am Pig, with me is Zombie Grub. And we have a good match for you guys starting off.
Yeah, it's going to be a really great TVZ, guys, and I am thrilled to be casting with my buddy Pig. We are on Triton for the first map. In the bottom right, as the blue Zerg, he is Lambo.
He's got a little Lambo?
He does. Some like a fan, like little kid gave it to him.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's cute, yeah.
And of course, facing off against him up here in the top left, playing for Mouse Sports for many, many years, probably over a decade at this point. In the red, give it up for HeRoMaRinE.
Yeah, he's been on that for a long time. Like, even when he was like not really playing a ton, you know, he was studying, and it was like, I wonder if he's on Sloan Bells. And you go to their website and he still is, and you're like, oh, okay, well, that's awesome.
And he signed with them when he was like 12 or something, right? So
I mean, probably, yeah,
he was a young little lad at that point, but he's come such a long way. And we talk about consistency in this game, and HeRoMaRinE is definitely that. He's the player who just is so consistent at making it deep in these tournaments, and I feel like he's been getting a little bit better each year. We haven't seen, I think, any one moment where he's suddenly just jumped jaggedly in skill to being like an absolute tournament champion from like round of 32. It's been like one extra round each 6 months, each couple of tournaments, and he keeps getting deeper and deeper. And I feel like he's kind of just hit this point of consistency where everyone respects him. Everybody knows he's going to be a tough match. And they especially fear his late game unit control. His ability to handle those large fights, especially in matches like TVT and TVP, second to none.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. Last year, HeRoMaRinE, with the 4 stops we had last year, he did like this thing where he was like 16, 16, 8, and then I was like, you know, hyping up like the Montreal, you know, round of 4, and then round of 2 actually, like actually the finals. But anyways, he like didn't quite have like the consistent like step up, tier up, which would have been an awesome story. But you know, yeah, he's definitely very consistent, and we're looking for you know, great things from him here. It's always also, you know, interesting when we talk about the new maps, like who's leading the charge on, you know, discovering all the nooks and crannies. And I know HeRoMaRinE stream had a lot of those clips from the new maps. You can kind of actually thank them, I feel, for the recent patch we had for them.
It's always so cool, isn't it, on these new maps? I love the Terran players especially, since they tend to be a more aggressive race, especially with all of their little ranged tactical maneuvers, right? It's always around setting up a tank on the cliff up in the high ground, dropping Marines up and down. So we find so many of these cool things, and a lot of the Zergs and Protoss players aren't going to have that much experience dealing with those positions. So definitely very keen to see what HeRoMaRinE's got. Of course, this is Triton. A rather large map, doesn't have the slow fields or the giant glowing discos or anything like that going on. Bit more of a more simple snow map aesthetically, but looks like a fast armory on the way here for HeRoMaRinE. Gearing up for a very quick Hellbat time. I think it's going to be the old classic, about 3 or 4 Marines in a medevac.
Yeah. 6
Hellbats, 7th and 8th rallying in during the fight. Speed Overlord's going to see it. I mean, you see 3 Marines, you see no add-on on the starport, now you see the medevac. You know what's coming. What's the response for Lambo? No Baneling Nest, no Spine. There we go. A Spine Crawler has gone down on the production tab at the natural. He actually cancels it and opts for the Baneling Nest. Interesting.
That is very interesting. I would be a little concerned not to have that Spine Crawler backing him up. Like, I actually am surprised that HeRoMaRinE did this build, considering we do have a lot more of those Overlord speed builds. But while the armory was not scouted, Pig's absolutely correct. Like, you should already be able to identify everything that's happening, but not even hitting immediately as the armory finishes, actually bopping around. There come the medevacs there.
Yep.
That's going to add just a little bit extra, and of course the medevac actually heals the Hellbat. Even the Reaper could help out, but a Ling counter just catches HeRoMaRinE completely by surprise. Nothing to defend, and the new the new production units are only just started. This is actually not going so hot as the medevac goes down immediately. The Hellbats do jump on top of those Queens with very little buffer for them, but the Concave will buy more time, and hopefully those Banelings will finish.
Oh, great play by Lambo. He knows that the wall cannot afford to be finished with this build. All the money's going into the combat units. The Hellbats are still nonetheless trying to press through. They take out a few Queens, but look at that. Oh, he's even inside the main base.
Yeah, I mean, he transformed into Hellbats, which was like, I guess, of course, Lambo was defending with his Queens, so he didn't jump on them as they were transforming. So that's like the lucky break finally, but lucky break of a lot of unlucky things happening. Not a great start for our red Terran, but maybe he can bring this back with some Banshee harassment. He can control at least the map for a little while longer, but Lambo, of course, already replacing those queens, because that's what you're hoping, is to find them still without mobile defense, but also getting Spore Crawlers and also getting another Ling run by potentially ready.
And this is a classic weakness of this opening that Lambo's been taking advantage of. He's backstabbing with some Zerglings. As this Banshee comes in, it's well defended. Hellbat's easily defending this. Lambo a bit sloppy. I think that's a bit of inattention. Surely he's not going to commit to that.
Apparently he is. That is weird. Even though he's going to break down 2 supply depots, 200 minerals, and an actual supply block, ultimately should only be getting maybe 2 SCVs. Oh, there's no wall in the vein anymore.
Hey.
Supply depot went down, factory's no longer there, and okay, that's more than 2 SCVs.
Yeah, not bad, not bad. It does get a few depots, a bunch of SCVs. Definitely not efficient cost for cost, but just keeping HeRoMaRinE down. HeRoMaRinE already starved for money after that early backstab. Lambo jumping up to 4 bases here. And I can't stop thinking about that opening. I think it was such a good read by Lambo. You know, he was worried about the push. He said, look, having a mass of Zerglings run into Hellbat's not going to be a good idea. Snake them around the backside of the map. And I wonder if HeRoMaRinE just was a bit slow on building a few of his Hellions, because if he just had 2 Hellions popping, you micro those, you drill the SCVs up into the main, you can micro those Zerglings down, but there must have been a gap in production. I think it was just one of those small mechanical errors which lined up to be the worst possible thing against Lambo's backstab.
I absolutely agree. I tried, pointing out that, oh my God, the production only just started on those Hellions, and that is the exact right time the Zerglings want to get in there. So it was, a bit lucky for Lambo. Now, we do have this immediate follow-up of the 4th base, which I think is totally called for. He actually was not on a very high drone count. The observer showed the resources lost, and it's, because he lost so many Lings doing all of that, it actually didn't look so bad. But the thing that we have to keep in mind is that Lambo knows HeRoMaRinE doesn't have a follow-up. His follow-up is Banshees, which are easily deflected. They're just harassment. He saw how many Marines were not there with the most recent run-by, so he knew he had a ton of time. Now he's up to 76 drones, even as he loses a few here, and he's getting an infestation pit, and he's getting all these upgrades. And HeRoMaRinE is just now ready to do any sort of attack. So Lambo is just getting away with a ton.
Yeah, those Queens with a lovely snipe there on that Banshee. But 78 workers, and that creep spread is at the point where I feel like, give it another 30 seconds, it's at the point of no return, where there's too many heads on the Hydra to cut them all off. They're just going to keep regrowing faster than you can possibly cut them down, and adds insult to injury.
Oh boy. I wonder what's going through HeRoMaRinE's head right now. He does have the potential to just start dropping, but then there's always the question of does he think he actually has any sort of push? There is technically an option to just basically turtle up, right? Just, do the double drop, so quadruple drop, double. Keep the pressure up and be I guess we're getting a hive, and I guess, you're going to give me a chance to max out, hopefully. But it's a very difficult situation. HeRoMaRinE has not had a lot of pressure. This is going to find a couple of the Queens, but here come the Lings really quickly, and actually not even finding the Queens, just finding a couple creep tumors, which, unless there's an immediate follow-up with a push, then it's kind of, they just instantly get replaced.
Yeah. It's good to apply a little bit of pressure here, do what you can, but as you said, I think it definitely is looking like the long game plan will be the order of the day here for HeRoMaRinE. Those units are going to pull back for now. He's got his 3rd base saturating. Still down about 20 workers. Starting is 2-2. But the hive timing is what worries me. I think we're going to be seeing Vipers on the way, and a big old, potential Ultralisk Hydra Bane attack could come out of Lambo. Even just a Hydra Zergling Baneling attack with 2-2 is something that'll be so hard to stop. I like Drilling Claws as something which can slow the play down and be efficient over time, but it doesn't quite have the staying power of siege tanks behind a wall off.
Right, yeah. It signals to me that he does have a plan for at least some sort of attack with his main army, as opposed to just turtling up with tanks and trying to get a really, really fast 4th base. We would have already seen that been put down, actually, if that was really his plan. So he's going to try and hit, certainly, pre-Ultra, but those Vipers will be out. Now, they're not going to be able to grab tanks or Blinding Cloud tanks, which is usually where we get the big gasp of the audience, but they can still parasitic bomb, and they can still try and Blinding Cloud the army so that they push forward into the Banelings, which is really, really obnoxious. Finally, that 4th base does go down, But I mean, you just look at the pacing of this game. The supply doesn't look so bad, but the pacing of this game feels bad. You know, my Terran heart right now, I just feel like I would be swamped with the Zerg. And that's what's happening.
Yeah, he's definitely going to play this slow game. And I think HeRoMaRiNE's doing a lot of things right to edge his way back towards an okay position. 4th command center's on the way. Waiting for that 2-2 to get closer. Definitely wants to force some trades. And a WCS drop snaking down the left-hand side of the map. Still trying to create pressure in 2 different areas in the middle to at least stop the creep getting past the middle of the map. But just trying to hold back a flood of Zerg. Nice focus fire. Gets the full medevac of Marines. Lovely target fire by Lambo.
Yeah, that was nice. That was nice. This WCS drop is, you know, I feel like it's a bit of a surprise. This late in the game, as well as versus Zerg. Only gets 3 drones, though, so not too impressive. If you save the medevac, though, the WCS really are not that expensive. You know, especially if you're on 4 bases, which HeRoMaRiNE is not quite on, and this is going to be like a test for him. Lambo is maxed out. He has yet to include those ultras. He's still like prepared to transition into them, however, but he is ready to take a fight. There's that blinding cloud to try and push the army forward. It does for a second, but that is going to be so much Zerg crashing in, and HeRoMaRiNE just doesn't have enough.
There's just too many Banelings coming in, Zombie Grub. The Hydraling Bane reinforce is endless, and there's just not enough Marines. As we said, no tanks on the high ground or anything like that, and a Lambo crushing the opening with a nice defense and a beautiful backstab at the same time. Great play there from Lambo.
And I gotta go back to that very beginning, though. Like, I am really surprised that HeRoMaRiNE went for that armory build because, as you said, like, it is one that doesn't have the supply depot wall off, and it just opens up opportunities. So as soon as they see what you're doing, again, the Marines kind of gave it away, they not only are able to physically respond, but they have the ability to think about how they're going to respond. So that was the cancel on the Spine Girl. You went, wait a second, like, I don't have to respond purely defensively.
Yeah.
I can actually do this run by that not only might buy me time, mess up his micro, but might actually like give me game-winning points there, and it did.
It's a great spread of the Queens on the defense as well. Focus down the medevac very early in the defense while disrupting HeRoMaRiNE's base. As we said, you know, theorizing a little bit, thinking what went wrong there for Gabe. He knew it had been scouted. And my theory definitely is that, you know, I think maybe he just missed a little bit of that Hellion production. And the difference is massive. I think it was probably about only 12 Zerglings, maybe 14 that did the run by. Like, it wasn't a crazy number. 2 Hellions, if they wedge themselves in a nook in the minerals or they micro back up into the main base, they're going to be able to protect it. The problem, of course, was with no units out, you can't even lower the depots to your main to evacuate the SCVs up there. You kind of need to lock them out or even more damage is going to go down. But a rough start there, and definitely not what the sort of game we were hoping for, where, you know, Lambo just grabs an advantage so early on and then drives it through. But let's see what it looks like if we can get a more even opening build order. We're going to be going into the next map. Map number 2 down here in Ephemeron in the bottom right-hand side. In the blue, representing Clash, it is Lambo.
In the top left, down 1, he is the red Terran, HeRoMaRiNE.
My boy.
My boy.
HeRoMaRiNE is, you know, one of those just loved characters in the community as well, because he is someone who streams and explains a lot of his gameplay. You always catch him kind of live in between tournaments, just plodding through the ladder and effortlessly competing at about 7K MMR, it seems. His ability to just kind of talk while he plays still at such a high level is just impressive.
Yeah, and it's not like he, because I think what happens, you know, is that when you want to improve, you kind of have to stop talking. You have to actually like focus. If you want to stay at the same level, it's okay. But this guy talks all the time, and he's been improving steadily, as we were talking about. And I'm just like, how do you streamer, like a good streamer and a really good player? But I mean, we don't have to give all the credit to HeRoMaRiNE. Lambo also really awesome, especially in the last, I would say, year and a half. He's been doing videos, you know, he's been very talkative, as talkative as HeRoMaRiNE on his stream. He's been very helpful to us casters as well, always willing to answer our questions and whatnot. So, I mean, these guys are great, and I'm doing that whole thing where, like, you have to cheer for both of them guys because they're both great people, but of course everyone's just like, no, you know, to hell with Zerg, to hell with Terran. We know, but you know, the great news is that we get to be, like, feel good and wholesome memes for, like, a little while longer because of the knockout group. You know, we don't just have to say goodbye to our favorite players. That's always nice. And I think what's nicer is that if there are those weird, like, oh, well, this was supposed to be an amazing match. I mean, sorry, guys, I don't want to tell you, is that there could be one later on when they come back, so.
Yeah, I think the, you know, it's such a cool addition to the tournament. If you do make it out of that knockout bracket, you feel like there's a bit of that Rocky music.
Yeah.
That Eye of the Tiger playing. You have to take down a lot of people in a row, especially if you fall into the knockout bracket from the very start of it. So it's always a bit of a cool, grueling effort when you make it through one of those.
Yeah. I'm not so worried about these two guys, but this is, I mean, we talked about on the desk, you know, it's one of those, group stage 3, right? We get the guys from Challenger who just get seeded in here, and they're also the ones that have those points that, you know, unless you're Neeb, Serral, or Raynor, and Special is basically in, but anyways, like, you are actually a little concerned about bombing out, right? Like, if HeRoMaRinE were to lose here and actually lose out of his group and then have to fight through the knockout bracket, that is, like, suddenly someone who doesn't really have to worry, I think he's number 6, suddenly is like, hold on, like, do I just have, like, a bad tournament at the end of the year and trip at the finish line?
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure comes in. This is why I love being here at the fall tournament in Montreal. It's just such an exciting adventure, kind of seeing those storylines change. And at the end of each day, and even during the day, of course, especially after today, we're going to have a lot of people out there in the community predicting the percentage chances and how they're changing, and it doesn't matter where you hide it. Lambo sees everything. Overlord speed again, and spots a fusion core this time around.
Yeah, you know, I'm not so weirded out that you try and do something like a fusion core against what is, like, increasingly just more and more Overlord openings, because I think the battlecruiser is still obnoxious enough with the combination of the Hellions on the ground to either defend or to attack, that if it's scouted, I don't think it's like a, yep, I know exactly what to do, I guess you're gonna die, like last game was. So I'm definitely still, like, I'm okay with this one, even though it's not a surprise. I'm thinking HeRoMaRinE also was ready to admit that it wasn't gonna be a surprise. Heck, even last game, maybe he was totally prepared to have it, you know, fail, quote unquote, but then have a solid macro game. And the run by happened.
Yeah.
So that's just like, I mean, that's kind of like the world I guess Terran has to live in right now, is that even though they have a variety of builds, it does seem like the Zergs are using advantage of that new buffed, pneumatized Carapace to get Overlord speed.
We are seeing Sporkril is starting up, a Roach Warren on the way, and a second and third gas. And a little part of me is thinking about, with how deep that creep is through the center of the map already and how much Lambo's focused on that, how many queens are being pumped out, that we may see a Queen Ravager Ling push here. It's one of the most powerful pushes. The battlecruiser, of course, cannot engage into 9 queens all at once, pushing across that map with Transfuse. But a lot more workers do get added to the production tab, so it's pretty unlikely to do it off more than 45, 50 workers. Nonetheless, though, you know, Roach is going to shut down any Hellions and Hellbats on the ground. The Queens and the Spores going to do a good job, and the work account for Lambo, it's healthy, but he hasn't really looked to take a lead. Like some players, when they spot this, you'll see them rush to 70 workers, defend with the bare bones. He's looking to shut this down completely and take no worker losses to the battlecruiser Hellion.
Yeah, the risk about that, you know, the bare bones approach is that while you might be able to handle everything if everything's in perfect position, there is the two potentials. There's not just the battlecruiser, which initially everyone was like, oh, it's a battlecruiser. So many more times it was the Hellions running in because there was only like 0 roaches or only 4 of them, and they were doing a lot of the damage. So you definitely want to walk that line as always as the defending Zerg player, but yeah, to just like completely go up to 70 and just ignore everything else and try and be as greedy as possible, that is dangerous. We do have the Mech and Yamato follow-up, which I believe, I was talking to a couple of the Zergs, and they do think that this is the strongest follow-up. Bio follow-up's kind of so I am happy to see that. And we're all on a map that, well, it's not like King's Cove, which I'm sure Lambo probably like vetoed, but we do have like a high ground third base, right? So it does kind of invite that more macro stance. So I'm actually digging this game. I think we got a solid setup.
Absolutely. This one could go many different ways from here, but most certainly going to be going on for a little while longer. And I also love the respect that HeRoMaRinE shows for Lambo. Didn't really scout the mineral lines or anything, but he teleported the battlecruiser quite far out front, just picked off a few overlords, didn't dive in at all, Whereas normally you're playing this on the ladder, you know, at whatever level. You dive right in there and you get as many workers as you can. You're just like, go for it. But he's like, no, my opponent scouted this. He's actually, you know, a top 20 player in the world. And he's going to have Spore Crawlers and Queens waiting galore for that. So Hellions coming in here, looking at Yamato a few Queens, but it's not ready just yet. Ooh.
Yeah, that's not quite enough Queens. Corrosive Pile should never be able to hit those battle cruisers. I'm going to go ahead and target those down. They are quite expensive. Then the Queens will follow. And is Lambo caught at this most awkward time? All right, there's more Queens coming, and that will be enough. Like 7 Queens attacking a battle cruiser. But this was almost like a perfect timing. It was right before that Spire was done. Lambo's banking all those minerals and gas. But he unfortunately will lose a couple gas units and a couple of those Queens.
I mean, the Queens are expensive, and remember, the repair cost for these BCs, it's mostly the lost mining time. It only costs 25% of the battlecruiser's original cost to repair it from 1 hit point up to full hit points. So it's more the lost SCV mining time than anything. That being said, HeRoMaRinE wants to keep using them, so he's pulled off about 10 SCVs. He repairs really quickly and gets them straight back into the fight.
Yeah, you know, we have like pretty late upgrades, which I mean makes sense. Sacrifices have to be made. You both don't just go like full bore into a macro game. So they're not going to be the best upgraded battle cruisers, but also, of course, the ground army, which has been roaming a little, but definitely shy. Scanning the natural, I guess, actually looking for the tech, you know, more than the hive. But the hive is on the way. I was wondering if the infestation pit was going to be for swarm host. We have seen that as a response sometimes, but with everything else on the docket, I was like, yeah, that's got to be a hive. And it is. And then you have the double attack upgrades, the Carapace on the way. I mean, Zerg players, you know, they're talking to each other. They're like, battle cruisers, man, this thing sucks. Like, how do we deal against this? And it seems to be like that stock standard way.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravager on the ground with the Lingbane, so good against the Hellion Cyclone. And it's interesting, we still see Cyclones being built here by HeRoMaRinE. They're very important for locking onto Corruptors when they dive onto your battle cruisers, right? So you do need some. But we're also seeing players more willing to sort of seamlessly shift between, hey, I'm massing Cyclones, and hey, actually, I just built 8 siege tanks suddenly. And this army looks drastically different. The way you deal with it as a Zerg is suddenly like counter, you know, it's kind of completely different, right? You're looking to flank and surround and like kind of trap the Cyclones and Hellions, and anytime you press them against the wall, it's really bad for them. But it does change depending on the style. Once again, another risk-free run in here. As long as there's no infestors there ready to fungal, they can just teleport out at the last second. Lovely play by HeRoMaRinE, really efficient.
Absolutely, and infestors are on the way. Lambo's no fool, just they're not quite prepared yet. I mean, 5 bases to 4, they're gonna, 92 workers in Lambo, 75. They're gonna be getting a lot of income, especially as they max out. We're gonna see those banks really start to accumulate.
Oh my.
Lambo also taking the map with that creep, but it is that challenge of like, you don't wanna throw away that army you have built to protect yourself against earlier pushes in favor of what, you know, could inevitably maybe be the mass infestor stuff. As we certainly do want to see at least some infestors. You know, we see a couple there. I'm sure we'll see more as the game goes on. Overlord actually sees the composition, which I think is nice, as well as the push. Does lose its life for it, but still nice. And looks like the attack is going to be going to that right side, where Lambo doesn't have a lot of important things. He did not expand over to that right side. But okay, yeah, HeRoMaRinE's actually just gonna position his siege tanks like turtle mode on the high ground. Wow.
Oh, that's an annoying staggered position. Lovely fungal on some of these Cyclones at the front. Does bite off the front of this push, but a intelligent pullback there by Lambo. You don't want to chase into those tanks on the high ground. And Hellions looking to split off on the left-hand side for harassment as well. The battle cruisers here, the Hellions, the Cyclones. HeRoMaRinE just looking to pick off from an annoying situation. 100 workers for Lambo. I mean, he just wants small skirmishes. He does not want this to escalate too quickly because he does not have that much army. He's actually mostly on economy.
Yeah, you know, I was talking about infestors. Usually we're talking about also Broodlord and Infestor, but he's actually not prepared the Broodlord transition. So he's replacing with, first of all, he's replacing all these drones. Huge barbecue going down at that 4th base. And even the Hellbats make it to the Lynx, can't really respond. That would be even worse. So that hatchery suddenly could just go down, as there's still a lot of action in the middle of the map, and he's having a lot of trouble dealing with those tanks on the high ground. I thought he was going to expand to that base while he was doing this, and I guess he actually is. There we go. But they are so annoying, and he didn't get Vipers to just abduct them off that top.
Yeah, that's really tough to deal with. The Banelings, very supply-efficient units, helping out deal with the Cyclone Hellion. But I love this push from HeRoMaRinE with the BCs there. even though 1 or 2 of them got trapped by Fungal, the Infestors were going down each time. So I don't think Lambo has any Infestors gathering energy. And even though he's got a lot of income, he's not doing anything to slow down HeRoMaRiNE's advance. HeRoMaRiNE's advancing through the middle of the map and expanding across the entire top side. Even more workers going down here. And Lambo doesn't have the gigantic bank. He wants to keep that economy up. He doesn't actually want to lose those workers yet. The tanks here firing massive shots off, but the Corruptors doing really nice on those BCs.
Yeah, I guess we have, you know, not quite super late game compositions up against each other, which is a little bit surprising, but Lambo is going that, like, the very Zerg path, which is that he will be able to replace after these skirmishes where, you know, HeRoMaRiNE barely cannot. I mean, he's, again, 79 workers, that's a lot, but he does not have that bank quite yet. So the skirmishes are working so far somewhat well for Lambo, but he's still not advancing that tech too much. More drones gonna go down, and Lambo is always gonna be a threat, even with all this creep spread, he just focused somewhere else. We're about to have 2-2 on that mech army. It's entirely ground mech army now, by the way, with Valkyries gone.
Yeah, it's almost like pure Cyclones, right? HeRoMaRiNE seems to want to have like 3 to 6 tanks and then just a lot of that. No, the caustic spray attack. So he's got to run that command center to the right while repairing it, get out of the caustic spray range, and then pull back. But at the same time, Lambo jumps on the front, gets rid of those siege tanks, and finally pushes HeRoMaRiNE back to his side of the bridge.
Yeah, I mean, after he was forced to move those tanks away from that high ground. That was such a nasty spot. It did get a little bit easier for Lambo to tackle into it, and then he didn't replace any of the tanks. And I always like to see like 2 or 3 just like cementing the position, you know, threatening any just forward, you know, corrosive biles. But you're right, like it's just basically pure Cyclone here. Very mobile. But if it's ever caught by a Fungal or caught someplace that it can't retreat, it is going to be a disaster. But if it's caught in a situation like this, where Lambo has to be the one that retreats, it's going to be great for HeRoMaRiNE, but it's around
The Banelings! The Banelings!
Do it!
Oh, they're looking for it, but the Cyclone's wriggling out of there, somehow evading that Baneling, Zergling flank. And most of them do survive. That was a frightening moment for HeRoMaRiNE.
Oh my gosh, like I'm just here like clutching my like heart right now. That was insanely close. Just a handful of Lings stop the retreat, and that's all you need. Even for just a second, as the Blue Flame Hellions finally take care of them, might just be enough. That was almost a disaster in the making there that was barely saved. Now Lambo, I was talking about that bank, it is mostly gone now. He remakes that Roach Ravager Baneling army, which is actually a really expensive army. And then he's also adding on, I was waiting for it, and there's more Infestors with Mineral Parasite as well. Oh, and HeRoMaRiNE's adding on Liberators. That's definitely one thing that's been missing.
Yeah, the Liberator versus Infestor interaction. It's like one of these things where you suddenly see the Infestors, they're not threatened at all in most of these engagements unless there's somehow tanks up in range or Liberators. And those Liberators on top of tanks, that is a Roach Infestor annihilating army. Like, Tank Liberator just smashes that army so hard, and that's why that Great Aspire is so important. Lambo's starting it so late in this game at 15 minutes. I feel like he needs those Broodlords up, or this next fight is going to get really awkward for him.
Yeah, I've been kind of surprised for the last, you know, maybe 2 or 3 minutes there wasn't one on the way, but I think he was just thinking that it was, you know, he'd be able to remax with this army and actually tackle what was still just the Cyclone tanks. But we are getting to that next stage. A really good Fungal there, and then collapsing on the right side with more Banelings. The tank's going to try and save the day, and it looks like they will. Only 2 of them, oh no, actually 1 of them going down, but demolishing a handful of those Ravagers on the retreat. Liberator harassment also getting started. And that is going to be pretty effective.
Very nice. These range Liberators queued up to hit multiple bases, and then push through the middle at the same time. HeRoMaRiNE hasn't even really brought the Liberators in with the main army, but look at that. The creep has been pushed back through the middle. Liberators forcing drones off the line on all sides. Lambo is maxed out, but his bank has been annihilated. This sort of economy, Lambo wanted to be banking 4,000, 4,000, 10,000, 10,000 by this point in the game, but he hasn't had a chance to. The tanks here trying to hold on. Fungal, Infested Terrans, Biles are going to break through, and that position is broken.
Yeah, I think that was the classic mistake of just letting a bunch of small units overwhelm you, because he really did not have a lot of Hellions left over. So whether Lambo recognized that, and that's why he swooped in, or just thought that it would be a good opportunity as he re-maxed. Either way, it worked out really, really well for him. Those tanks were pretty much unguarded against that, and that is a sigh of like relief, right? He no longer has to worry about an encroaching push through the middle that actually wasn't hitting anything yet.
Yeah.
But as soon as you let it go like a little bit farther, then it's hitting that hatchery, and then it gets much, much worse. So we are gonna have that time where they can both fully transition, it looks like. Again, 5 Liberators on the way at a time. These might all now be used on the offensive as opposed to some for harassment. moment, and then Lambo is perfecting that late game army. Do you think he's going to go ahead and sacrifice more of these Roach Ravagers and go like full Broodlord, corrupt their Infestor? Because he's actually not so much in a hurry to do that.
Yeah, for now he seems very focused on just the kind of Ravager, Baneling, Infestor sort of army. Not wanting to make those Broodlords. You know, Broodlords are a big supply commitment. They're very immobile on this map where it's quite stretched across the middle. And yeah, it's a big kind of immobile and very fragile expenditure. If those Broodlords get caught out, a lot of money can go down very quickly. I definitely think he's ready at any moment though, right? If he clears up supply, he feels he needs it, he may just make a big round of Broodlords. But for now, opting for this Ravager, Baneling, Infestor army, and it's settled down for a moment. HeRoMaRinE did take a long time to get that top right base. At the same time, Lambo trying to secure this middle left base, which is very important for his progression. This push suddenly seems very important for HeRoMaRinE. Lambo's managed to get a bit of a bank, but his army supply is lower right now. And this push is looking very scary. It's deep on creep.
He might, this is really scary. The Liberators being, of course, the scariest thing. Even like, it was like a target fire on the Infestor is really nicely done. Thors are being added in as he like kind of gets the feeling like, yes, we should be expecting those Broodlords, and he absolutely should. 8 are on the way right now. Lambo might have to sacrifice this base. Actually doing an okay job with that high ground, going in for it, but every time he just ducks into those Liberation zones, instantly a couple Ravagers die.
And that's it. I mean, this push is so important. If he can clear this base and then on the retreat, take out the base in the middle left, Lambo's economy is going to be absolutely smashed. It's going to be a big amount of damage. I mean, there's a lot of workers here, which are very luckily going to get out of there. It's a nice position, but he sees the Broodlords. HeRoMaRinE knows about it. 5 Thors in production, as well as that building armor. Coming in. Liberators going to the left-hand side. He wants to continue this. He wants to get more damage done. He's going to try and force a fight away from those Broodlords. The Ravager's not going to be able to break through. Oh my gosh, he's going to snap the bottom left up and the middle left with this push. A beautiful maneuver by HeRoMaRinE. I think he's just going to pull back after sniping the economy off.
Yeah, I'm afraid that Lambo just didn't, he underestimated, oh, well, that's a nice find, underestimated those Liberators, or how fast the amount of Liberators would be on those front lines. He now finally has that air army, and he's replacing any ground army with more air. We're getting to that point. You know, while he's doing this, HeRoMaRinE just took out 3 bases. Well, actually, he didn't actually take the bottom left, but he's made it so that's really hard to mine from it. There you go. There. Okay, now I'll say it's officially taken out. So 3 bases, and then he's also transitioned fully into Thors. Like, fully.
Yeah.
Like 5 Thors at a time.
I mean, Thors do deal with Broodlords. Yeah, we saw in GSL a game last week where the Broodlords won, but that was the most patient Broodlords of all time, paired with perfect spellcaster usage. You're gonna need a Fungal Blinding Cloud combo to deal with those Thors, and right now Lambo, he's out of bank, he's low on money, his Infestors keep getting picked off by these Cyclones and these Liberators, and some units even gonna flank on in. HeRoMaRinE there says, these aren't the best anti-Broodlord units, let's dive in. Would love to see him snipe off something like the Spire here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that should be the target. The tank's actually getting a siege up on that natural ramp means that the Infestor trying to come forward definitely cannot. Has to be very careful about his reinforcements. And of course, that tech is going to go down. Spire is targeted. Perhaps Hive could be next. I mean, no Hive, no Vipers, which haven't been made at all in this game so far. But I think he is just, there we go.
Oh my gosh.
Is he going to be able to get that? Can he run away with the Broodlords?
Yeah, look at that.
He's going to get it.
Look at that.
No.
It's so close.
No. Keep micro, keep micro, keep micro.
Oh my God! No!
Are you kidding? Send the SDVs to kill that. They got this. Oh, come on.
You're a dreamer.
That is insane. Okay, well, Lambo's feeling a little bit better. Now, apparently he doesn't want Vipers, but that would have also delayed any tech he would have lost in the future. As we're still talking about a pretty long game here, and we know from previous games, even today, how much Broodlord Infestor can just hang on. And while his economy is in the dumps, he's just replacing it right now. That's his main focus. He is maxed out with a big army.
Yeah, this is a very large Zerg army. When your economy gets knocked down, yeah, you don't have a lot of backup over time. Skirmishes are going to be bad for you because you can't replenish, right? But Lambo's got a big one-punch army. And that's what HeRoMaRinE, you suddenly see him being a lot more careful now. He realizes this is a very frightening army. You've got the power of the Broodlord Infestor in there. There is, I believe, 1 Viper with the Corruptors. And Thors are great. If they can just fight head-to-head against the Broodlords, they will crush it. That's the problem, though. The Broodlords are going to try and use this ledge on the right-hand side, and they're probably going to come in from that angle. They might clump up, throw a volley at the Thors, pull back, throw a volley, and they're going to aim to engage 1 or 2 Thors at a time with every single Broodlord.
Oh, those Infestors not actually moving away. There we go. One of them does go down. Yeah, I'm with you. I think he should be attacking from the right side, but actually going face first and that not doing so hot. It's just so difficult to deal with the Liberators when they have that range. It's a perfect response to the Infestor problem with Neural Parasite.
Yeah, Neural Parasite otherwise can be deadly. Blinding Cloud goes down on the left, but that's an arc of Thors right now. And most of them are in range. Those Broodlords falling so quickly. Oh my lord, that is the fight that HeRoMaRinE wanted. The Thors taking out so many of those Broodlords. Neural Parasite does come in now in the tail end of it. Gonna try and turn this around and clean it up, but yeah, I think it's not quite enough, even though the Thors turn on each other a little bit. Yeah. The Broodlords have gone down, and that's so impossible for Lambo to replace. He lost the center base. The middle left has never been replaced. And Lambo inching along on 29 workers up against the big 60 SCV economy of HeRoMaRinE, who is still dropping dozens of mules whenever he feels like it.
Yeah, I mean, he's remaxing a little bit slow here because his gas is a problem, but it's, you know, the production tab actually kind of tells the tale there. It's good for HeRoMaRinE, not so good for Lambo, who's trying to replace that good but very expensive army. I liked the idea towards the end. I think his idea was definitely take out the Liberators, and then his Infestors can come in, because the Terrans are looking to scan for the bird Infestors. It just was too late. The Broodlords were all already dead, so even though he managed to take down HeRoMaRinE supply with him, it just wasn't the same. And unfortunately, not enough a big enough bank. He actually just taps out without the next fight. GG, HeRoMaRinE ties it up. Very good use of that mech. Kind of the pacing was not what I expected, though. When I see those games, I am so used to seeing, especially when they're a little passive for 4 or 5 bases, just straight up like, okay, I go Broodlord Infestor, and you go, well, whatever you want to go, like battle cruisers, Thors, like whatever. But that was a little more nuanced, a little more into that lair tech for a long time, right? And did that actually work?
Yeah, a very different and a long, drawn-out game there for game number 2. We'll be back, of course, with game number 3 very shortly. Can't wait to see how this one goes. Just going to have a very quick break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back here to the WCS World Championship Series Fall, live from Montreal, Canada. And we are in a series that just got heated up. The first game, a little bit one-sided there with Lambo crushing through HeRoMaRinE, but map number 2 really delivered. The battle cruiser, battle mech, just drawn out battle on Ephemeron. An awesome way to kick off the series into overdrive, and now it is tied up 1-1 apiece.
Yeah, that's what we wanted. We came in here thinking that these two players would really give us a show. They've done it every single tournament, basically. And I mean, now we finally have it with that second game. So I'm really looking forward to what the third game can bring. I'm not quite sure what map it's going to be on. We're going to find out soon. These two guys actually, I wanted to mention, but everything got, we had to speak out so much. But Lambo's actually done really well today, where of course HeRoMaRiNE's just now coming in because he was seeded in for his challenger results. So Lambo's been all warmed up and ready to go, but I guess HeRoMaRiNE needed that first game to get warmed up, and now it's game number 3. Everyone's warmed up, everyone's good. We're on Winter's Gates. Oh boy, inhibitor zones. In the bottom right, as the blue Zerg, he is Lambo.
And up here in the top left-hand side, showed us what he's made of in that last one. This man is no pushover. They call him Big Gabe for a reason. Up here in the top left, in the red, give it up for Mouse Sports, HeRoMaRiNE.
Ooh, this map, Winter's Gates. It's gated because it has so many inhibitor zone gates.
Oh yeah.
Ugh.
It has got some awkward areas in the middle of this map. Destructible rocks, followed by inhibitor zones, followed by destructible rocks, followed by inhibitor zones. A lot of like Zerg players wanting to move around the edges of this map, wanting to do a lot of fighting on the side areas, but even the main base, I remember the first time I played this, and I was trying to get an Overlord away from a Stalker, and I realized as it flew into this inhibitor zone, I was like, wait, why is there one here? Like, I was so confused, I could do nothing but laugh. And then I realized, like, it kind of slows down air harass, things like Mutalisks bouncing between the bases. So there's a lot of things which I think if you're not a careful and thoughtful player with how you move your army around in this map, it's easy to get caught out with your army suddenly wading through hummus and having a bad time.
It's a very interesting map. Now, personally, I get so frustrated. I'm just like, but I love watching, right, the players try and have to work around this obstacle, and also their attempts to lengthen the map through non-standard means, right? That's kind of what was happening on Turbo Cruise as well from the last map pool. But actually, what's I think is so interesting about this is where the Reaper is right now, actually. So this is like the third for both parties a lot of the time, right? Third to third on this map is like 18 seconds. It's like insanely short, even with the inhibitor zones. But like the complication, of course, is that creep spread gets pushed out by the Zerg, and then they have multiple attack paths as well if a Terran army gets cemented there. Yeah,
good flanking angles on it, right? To like kind of collapse on it from behind.
So we don't actually see it abused too much, even though when I first saw this map, I was like, well, you just change there and then just see your face. Like,
you just win.
Isn't okay? But no, it becomes a much more complex map than that. So I'm excited to see what these guys are going to use for it. HeRoMaRiNE having success with that battle mech, but was that just because of the map?
It is a style we've seen a lot of recently. And once again, Lambo here says Overlord Speed. Now, of course, Overlord Speed has actually been given a slight buff recently. It is 25 minerals and 25 gas cheap. It doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're rushing for it, it does make a difference. It's only 75 gas and 75 minerals. Gives you the Overlord Speed upgrade. And of course, Lambo here, we talk about him as a reactive player, a solid macro player, somebody who likes to scout what his opponent's doing, react to it, and he wants to push into the deeper phases of the game. He feels like he is a strong player. The longer the game goes, the higher the chance he has to show that skill and to kind of beat his opponent in the long strategic game. And once again, the Overlord Speed comes in right after that tech structure goes down, and he's actually not path to scout it just yet, but no doubt he'll wheel back and confirm that fusion core is in the back of the base in the near while.
Yeah, it should happen. There's nothing to kill the Overlord. Oh, single Marine, you got this, buddy. You got this.
He's got big dreams.
Yeah, just like those OCPs last game.
He didn't see it.
He did not see it. He also didn't see the additional, what will be a tech lab added on. There we go, exactly. But as you said, like if he doesn't come back and check, that's definitely on him.
HeRoMaRiNE canceled the Viking.
Yeah, I think that was just the fake to convince the Overlord. Be like, yeah, I'm totally doing a 1-1-1, just fast stim, no problem. Yeah, that would have been a lie, and Lambo was not about those lies. That's why he got Overlord speed, that he wouldn't be lied to. So he knows what's up. And we do have is that a faster Roach War than the last game, or maybe similar times?
Yeah, about similar. I wouldn't be surprised to see a second and third gas go down, since I think they might be slightly later than they were in that one. But very good economy builder. I would say Lambo's actually really pushing his economy very nicely this time around. Oh my.
Oh no.
Doesn't want to let him get up the ramp. He cannot let those Hellions get up the ramp. Lambo, great micro, stops the Hellions diving up the ramp, but a lot of workers are going down in the process.
Yeah, that was 8. Drones going down, a lot of lost mining time, and of course the Lings also did mostly go down. Actually, that was perfect. That was the perfect setup of events. We were talking about Lambo being just a little bit greedy, and those Hellions run right in and get a decent number of drones. Since he's going to follow this battlecruiser up with mechs, similar to last game, he doesn't have to worry so much about that. Like, well, I just gave away my army, so now I die. It's actually going to be okay, and Lambo is not going to try and even do that counter. He is just trying to replace the drones and prepare for that battlecruiser. His queens are going to try and get on top. And now that creeps from the main base, though. So just 3 against the single battlecruiser. Probably helps a little bit, though.
His focus fire is so good. Hunting down these queens, he realizes there's no transfuse. Gets in there. Both those queens he focused down were very close to getting transfuse energy. So he's just put Lambo's kind of queen bank on the back burner. You can kind of imagine the way their energy grows for that transfuse. Is obviously something where once they've got enough transfuse up, they just don't go down to 1 or 2 BCs. They've got the heals going down, and that means you've got more and more queens banking that energy, and it just kind of builds up exponentially over time. So I like the chipping away and kind of skirting the edges. You'll notice the battlecruiser is just pushing back creep tumors, looking for overlords out there, just looking for these easy pickups without overcommitting.
Yeah. Very similar opener and follow-up. Here from HeRoMaRinE, another attempt on those drones. Lives does not go so well, but does see where the queens are, and they're all the way over there, so battlecruiser comes over to the right, and we'll find an empty drone line, but a quick pull away means Lambo is just losing mining time, so not too bad. And we do have that Spire about to complete.
That creep spread, oh my gosh. He's like, yeah, let's take this out. I was like, wait a second. Look at how far it is. It goes even further than the scan. Lambo not missing a beat on that creep spread. As now into Roach production. Believe his Spire just finished up as well. So Roach Corruptor. And there's actually some fearsome timing attacks. We didn't see it in the previous option from Lambo, but he might go for it here on Winter's Gate, especially after that last game. When your opponent just keeps building battle cruisers, sometimes you just build a big round of Corruptors and you shove across that map and you try to break them with a big Roach Ravager, Baneling, Corruptor bust. So that is definitely something that could be on the cards, but look at this battlecruiser run by us.
Yeah, I mean, he keeps on getting these queens, which is really nice. He did follow up immediately with a couple of Cyclones, but then 2 tanks were actually going to hopefully buffer against any attempt for those Roaches to come across the map. You do have not a wall on your side for HeRoMaRinE, but you do have the rocks plus inhibitor zone. So they really have to commit there or come in from a different angle, which gets kind of awkward. So it doesn't look like an attack's gonna be possible. Another 2 queens are gonna go down. 3 queens, actually. One of the regular attacks to the Amato. Nicely done.
That's so nice from HeRoMaRinE, just wearing this down and aware of the potential for that timing attack. Yeah, adds the missile turrets down, says, let's make sure I can hold this central area. If you want to engage the battle cruisers, you'll have to do it on top of missile turrets and mass repair. And that's not a fight the Zerg player wants to take. Lambo here, only 69 workers, still on non-stop unit production. We just saw a drop a Lord, so I think he's going to do an 8 Zergling drop in the main base. And at the same time, he's going to hit the front with mass Roach Ravager Corruptor. This is a fearsome attack. But with siege tanks already popping out 2 at a time, it's going to be hard to break HeRoMaRinE. He's got a really nice defensive setup. I feel like he's got a good read on where this game's going.
Yeah, as you know, he's really not this, like, I feel like I've definitely seen greedier builds behind this, you know, faster double armories, faster fours. He's actually not so bad here. I think he would defend well, granted that this doesn't like turn into a catastrophe, like the Lings go just unresponded to or something like that. It looks like he's even kind of anticipating something in the main, maybe just the Corruptors going in there, but that'll also help against the Overlord drop. Finds a Ravager just randomly, is scanning ahead to make sure nothing too bad waiting for him. Going to take out a Corruptor, transport away. Lambo is about to be max, so is it the time to go now? The Overlord went in and then I think it died.
Yeah, it looks like the tank kind of seemed to deal with that quite well. And there's tanks everywhere.
Wow.
And it feels like Lambo kind of, he pokes forward. He takes a big tank volley and he goes, there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way he can break this.
No, with them? I was going to say, like, Battlecruiser
No,
should
no, no, no,
probably
no.
safely run away, but now it's no for the other person as Lambo way overcommits. I think he thought that, what I thought, that HeRoMaRinE might not be paying attention. And then definitely overstayed his welcome against those Cyclones with the upgrade. That has not turned out so well. So Lambo, this feels like such a heavy delay on that follow-up tech, right? He did seem to want to do an attack, and then just was like, I guess it won't work, and it would not have.
Yeah.
Definitely better not to do it. But now only the devastation bit just finishing, and HeRoMaRinE is the one that's going to max out, and I'd be scared of a push from him.
Yeah, I mean, this is just frightening in general. You're at 75 drones against an 82 worker Terran. You're on an equal base count. You're maxed out on Roach, Ravager, Corruptor Queen, and you're just starting +1 range. You're down on upgrades. Your unit composition is not a long-term composition. It's a short-term army. And your opponent is just taking these trades against you little bit by little bit. Look at that. Triple Yamato, 3 Corruptors go down. The Queen's getting annihilated. The Creep getting pushed back. Lambo pushed back up against the wall here. And HeRoMaRinE taking advantage of it. These battle cruisers unperturbed by a couple of Queens and Corruptors just launching their way in. That +1 armor upgrade helping them out. And Lambo is back pressed up against the wall. He's got so little answer to this.
Yeah, the fact that it's 10 minutes, 11 minutes in, and missed micro on that one battlecruiser. That wasn't supposed to happen, but still, that he was having such a struggle dealing with that is not a great sign. I also find it interesting that Lambo went for all attack upgrades after an initial Carapace, as opposed to the last game, right? He went Carapace for air and then double attack on the ground, but doesn't really matter. The attack, the lair-based armies here trying to defend against HeRoMaRiNE's upgraded mech army. It is on siege initially, though, and he jumps on top of it.
Lings on the left flank get on top of a lot of those siege tanks, and nice clearance of those tanks by Lambo. The problem is the Cyclones have the maneuverability. They're pulling back on the left and the right flanks at the same time. The Ravagers do not have a lot of support left over. That one battlecruiser is going to go down. There's enough Corruptors there, but the Cyclones on the right-hand side, there's no support. It's just a handful of Ravagers, zombie grub.
Yeah, they're going to be trapped, and that is going to be it for Lambo's army. And for the series, HeRoMaRinE very excited about that win. Pounding the desk a little bit there. Very nicely done. 2-1 against his opponents. That was a nice series right there.
Yeah, bringing out a different style there in Game 2 and Game 3 and showing just how smooth and calculated that he was. A lot of momentum grabbed from early. The Hellion dive, the battlecruisers picking off, and really just commanding play from the Terran. Lambo not quite able to find the answer in that one, but of course we'll be continuing in this tournament. Let's hear from Big Gabe himself down there on the stage with Kevin.
That's right, I'm here with HeRoMaRinE. Congratulations, you're obviously very elated with that win. How did you feel? What did you think about your performance? Incredible, you're all the way to the round of 16.
As soon as I saw my group, I felt like I had a pretty tough one because I had 2 strong European players. Particularly Lambo, I was scared of because he's one of the higher ranked players on the ladder as well. And we have a lot of good Europeans, but he's one of the higher ranked Europeans. So yeah, I was really scared of him. That's why I tried to do like an all-in to get a cheap win in the first map. After it failed, I collected myself and just tried to play standard, which I think didn't work convincingly, but because it was a best of 3, I was able to grow within the series very quickly. If we were to play another couple of maps, I think it might go different.
Now, you made your way to the global finals last year. You're sitting 6th ranked in the points race right now for this year. What is your confidence level going into this tournament? Obviously, it must be boosted. Round of 16 now, going into the playoff bracket. How are you feeling about being able to hold on to that spot and return to the global finals?
My goal isn't to qualify for BlizzCon, because coming into this tournament, I didn't want to have that goal because otherwise I might feel too stressed out. I had that last year. I was in a pretty similar position, a little worse than this year, but being even near BlizzCon this year also kind of made me stress out. So I take it step by step. This was a very important step. Now my chances are very good. So now the confidence rises, the longer the tournament goes on.
It's awesome, I love the mindset. Match by match, game by game. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a hand here for HeRoMaRinE as he moves on to the round of 16 in the playoff bracket. We're back to you guys at the desk.
That's right. Big Gabe, there was a lot of battling and there was a lot of cruising going on here from our Terran representative as he takes down Lambo. Lambo unfortunately crashes into the wall for this series as a whole. And also, there was a lot of Thors in this game, Nathanius.
I loved everything about the second and the third game in this best of three. If I was going to describe to you my dirtiest Terran mech fantasies, this is it. This is it. It's battle cruisers, and it's you don't go too hard on them at the start. You kind of keep them to complement the army. That's the role that they serve. They go in, they harass. They're your quote-unquote guaranteed damage unless you're against one of those really well-timed all-in attacks that are deliberately set to kill it. Also, some Korean players that stream, that play the mech styles, we don't really see them go crazy far in the tournaments, but they've been kind of doing some of these responses late game-wise out of that Cyclone Hellion style. And the big Thor at the end of a TVZ, if you can get enough Liberators to cover them, they are really, really good against Broodlords. I think I speak for every Zerg player out there saying that Thors are very good against Broodlords if you cannot get the neural parasites onto them, basically.
Yeah.
So the Liberator support with the Hellions, like, we don't see that composition get played too much because you have to be able to spread them out. But HeRoMaRinE took some phenomenal engagements and really controlled his power units about as well as he could have. And also just a huge scale tipping point in that final game. The Corruptors tried to chase the BCs back. And Pig was talking about this. The Magfield Accelerator Cyclones on the defense are phenomenal. They're one of the best units in StarCraft at killing Corruptors. And he threw away almost half of them. And that next push, well, he lost the game on it.
Todd, anything to add to that novel? Or?
Absolutely not.
Someone's got to do the long breakdowns in here. Okay, this is the only thing I can talk about.
Rotterdam's not here.
This is the only thing I can talk about, Claire's.
I was following Hellraiser versus TLO, and Hellraiser actually won a very convincing series, sending TLO to the knockout brackets.
Yeah.
Game 2 was an absolute slugfest. Like, they were clashing in 6 places at once, and then TLO tried to go into Mutas. Hellraiser got enough Phoenixes to hold on, so he got the win there. TLO into the knockout brackets, has to face Denver. He's down 0-1.
Oof.
The Von der Wunsch facing elimination, so hopefully he can stay in it, stay calm, focused, and I believe that's being streamed by one of our streams as well. So
Nice.
we'll follow that.
I'm following it right now, but nothing's happened yet. So
Okay.
That's game 2.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right,
You already
anyway.
said
Yeah, you
he's
say
down.
nothing has happened. Well, it's 1-0.
Nothing
so
has
something
happened in the game. There's no
You said
reason to look
1-0.
at it.
That is, all right, okay, right, we're done. Right, well, you know, another disaster of
Fight
death
me, Todd.
segment.
Fight me.
I'm going to be fired at the end of this. It's all their fault. No, it's not. All right, we're going to go to a short break, ladies and gentlemen. And when we return for WCS 4, we have one more series here from the group stage to determine who's moving on into the round of 16 or round 24 on those knockout brackets. See you in a second.